Imagine you're in 1969, sitting behind the wheel of a brand new Chevelle SS 396. The air is thick with the smell of burnt rubber, and the deep growl of the big block V8 shakes the ground beneath you. You stomp the gas, and suddenly you're thrown back into your seat as the rear tires scream for mercy. This isn't just a car, it's a monster. But what if I told you that this legendary 396 big block wasn't just discontinued, but was actually banned? Yes, one of the most dominant muscle car engines ever built was quietly erased, and the real reason might shock you. Was it government interference? A corporate cover-up? Or was the 396 just too powerful for its own good? The truth is far more sinister than you think. So buckle up, because today we're uncovering the real story. The rise, dominance, and mysterious downfall of one of Chevrolet's most feared engines. The mid-1960s were a time of high-speed wars on the streets. Every major American car manufacturer was in a battle to produce the fastest, most powerful muscle car. Ford had the 428 Cobra Jet, Pontiac had the GTO, and Dodge had the 426 Hemi. Chevrolet, already known for its small-block V8s, realized that bigger was better, and they needed a game-changer. In 1965, Chevrolet introduced the Mark IV Big Block series, a brand new V8 engine family designed for pure dominance. The first true performance version was the 396 cubic inch Big Block, an engineering masterpiece that was built to crush anything on the road. Unlike Chevrolet's small block engines, the 396 was a completely new design with massive cylinder heads, a high-flow intake manifold, and a forged steel crankshaft to handle extreme power. The high-performance L78 version came with a solid lifter camshaft and an 11.0.1 compression ratio, producing an advertised 375 horsepower, though many believed it secretly pushed over 400 HP in stock form. The first car to receive the 396 Big Block was the 1965 Chevelle Z16, but with only 201 units built, it remained a rare collector's dream. However, by 1966, Chevrolet unleashed the SS 396 Chevelle, making this monster available to the masses. It didn't stop there. The Camaro SS 396 and the Corvette also got their turn with this powerhouse under the hood. With its raw torque, deep exhaust note, and bulletproof design, the 396 quickly became the king of the streets. Drivers loved its ability to effortlessly smoke the competition, and the Chevelle SS 396 became one of the most feared muscle cars of its era. But just as the 396 was reaching its peak, an unexpected corporate decision would begin to spell its downfall. By the late 1960s, Chevrolet's 396 Big Block was dominating the muscle car scene. It had cemented itself as one of the most powerful and feared engines on the road. But behind the scenes, something strange was happening. General Motors was quietly working against it. GM wasn't just Chevrolet. It was a massive corporation that also owned Pontiac, Oldsmobile, and Buick, all of which had their own muscle cars. The executives at GM feared that if Chevrolet became too dominant, it would steal sales from their other brands. So instead of letting the 396 grow stronger, GM decided to hold it back with a new corporate rule. No midsize car could have an engine larger than 400 cubic inches. On paper, this seemed like a safety restriction, but in reality, it was a move to cripple Chevrolet's dominance. While Ford was stuffing 428 Cobra Jets into Mustangs and Dodge was equipping 426 Hemis in their Chargers, Chevrolet was being forced to stay within GM's artificial limits. The 396 was already dangerously close to that 400 cubic inch limit, which meant there was no room for Chevrolet to expand its power further. But instead of backing down, Chevrolet's engineers came up with a sneaky trick. In 1970, they quietly bored out the 396 to 402 cubic inches. However, instead of renaming it the 402, Chevrolet continued marketing it as the 396 to maintain the brand's legendary status. This kept the SS 396 badge alive, even though the engine itself had technically outgrown its name. But this move wasn't enough to save the big block from what was coming next. A bigger storm was on the horizon, one that wouldn't just limit muscle cars but would change the entire industry forever. Just as Chevrolet was fighting against GM's corporate restrictions, another, even bigger threat emerged: the United States government. By the early 1970s, a wave of new emissions regulations and safety laws began targeting high-performance engines. Muscle cars, once seen as symbols of power and freedom, were now being labeled as dangerous and inefficient gas guzzlers. One of the first major blows came with the Clean Air Act, which forced automakers to reduce emissions. This meant lower compression ratios, detuned engines, and a drastic drop in horsepower. Suddenly, the once mighty 396 big block was being choked by government restrictions. But that wasn't the only problem. Insurance companies also declared war on muscle cars. Young drivers were the biggest buyers of high-performance vehicles, but insurance rates for muscle cars skyrocketed, making them nearly impossible to afford. Even if you could buy a brand-new Chevelle SS 396, chances were you couldn't afford the insurance bill that came with it. Then came the 1973 oil crisis, and this was the final nail in the coffin. Gas prices skyrocketed overnight, and suddenly, having a big, fuel-thirsty V8 wasn't just expensive, it was seen as reckless. The entire industry shifted toward smaller, fuel-efficient engines, and muscle cars were no longer a priority. By 1972, Chevrolet made the quiet decision to phase out the 396 402, marking the end of an era of raw, unrestricted power. The muscle car dream wasn't just fading, it was being systematically erased by a combination of corporate greed, government interference, and changing public perception. But while the 396 big block was officially gone, its legend never died. Even though the 396 big block was officially phased out by 1972, its impact on the muscle car world never faded. This wasn't just another engine. It was a symbol of an era when raw horsepower ruled the streets and car manufacturers built machines without limits. The 396 may have been replaced, but it paved the way for even bigger and more powerful engines, like the 427 and 454 big blocks. These engines took what Chevrolet had learned from the 396's dominance and pushed performance even further, powering legendary cars like the Chevelle SS 454 LS6, Corvette 427, and Camaro ZL1. Today, if you're lucky enough to own a Chevelle SS 396, Camaro SS 396, or Corvette with a big block, you don't just have a classic car, you have a piece of automotive history. The deep, unmistakable rumble of a big block V8 is something modern cars simply can't replicate. But here's the real question. Was the 396 big block simply too powerful for its time, or was it unfairly killed by corporate greed and government intervention? Did Chevrolet intentionally hold back its own performance division to avoid competing with Pontiac, Oldsmobile, and Buick? Or was the government's crackdown on emissions, rising insurance costs, and the oil crisis truly to blame? One thing's for sure, the 396 big block was one of the most feared and respected engines of its time. And no matter how many restrictions were placed on it, its legend will never die. So what do you think? Was the 396 unfairly taken down, or was its time simply up? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more insane muscle car history. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.